We will start with the prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namini Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisheshai Shunyavadi पाश्चात्य देशतारिणी जयो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण. Hare Krishna and welcome you all once again to the Sadachar classes from ISKCON Mangalore. So until last session, right, we completed the IDC Sadachar course, and then post that we went to the Dashavatars, and then now, right, our topic shifts towards the selected prayers in Bhagavatam. Okay, so there are beautiful prayers which are actually recited by so many devotees, right? Like Vyasadev, Arjuna, Queen Kunti, then Bhishma Dev, Devahuti, Dhruva Maharaj, Prithu Maharaj. So it goes on Gajendra. So there are a lot of prayers. Yeah. So we'll only go through them. Yeah. So this may actually take a couple of sessions more. Yeah. So there are roughly around 25 odd prayers which are there. So we'll see through. Okay. So that is the session update. So what we'll actually be looking in, and the other aspect is we'll be picking up directly from the Prabhupada's purports. So Prabhupada from Veda base will be directly reading this. So there is no slide decks which you can see through. So when I'm reading, right, so it will be directly from the Veda base. We select the shloka number, and then we read the uh, mantra, and then followed by the synonyms, translation, purport, right? And then we do our reflections on it, right? So that is how we'll go through these things. Yeah. So this is all written by Vyasadev, right? And then this is coming in disciplic succession. Yeah. So Bhagavatam was written by Vyasadev, right? And then this was spoken by Shukamuni, right? So this came when Parikshit Maharaj had 7 days. So he got an ultimatum that he'll be leaving his body in 7 days. Yeah. So then, so he asked, "What shall I do?" Right. So he never counter cursed, or say he never took revenge of the um, Brahmana son. Right. So he never went into that mode. So rather, he actually took it in a positive way, and then he left all his kingdom, everything. Yeah. So he was ruling the entire universe. Yeah. And then he gave it, he left everything to his family, and then he walked away, right, to the Ganges. And then he was talking to the sages, what should I do? So I've got only 7 days, right? How do I spend my 7 days, right? And then in there, Sukadev Goswami comes in. Yeah. So, and Sukadev Goswami is offered the Vyasasan, right? And then this Bhagavatam is spoken, right? And then this was spoken continuously day and night for 7 days. Yeah. So Parikshit Maharaj heard this for 7 days continuously. Yeah. So don't get tempted with the Bhagavad Saptas which we have in, right? So that's not the way we should read. Okay, Bhagavatam is a study. It's Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, right? So it's not that we only go and attend Bhagavad Sapta and then we'll get all the knowledge of Bhagavatam. So it doesn't happen in that way. Yeah. Because Bhagavatam is of 18,000 verses. Yeah. And then in 7 days, neither we are Parikshit Maharaj, right? We are not liberated as Parikshit Maharaj who can act, who could listen without drinking water or eating food, right? So, and then the yugas are also different. So neither, not, he was in the same yuga, but I think the way he was liberated and the kind of mercy he had from right from his birth, right? So he was always having the mercy of the Lord. So that's a different thing. So Bhagavatam is something which we should relish every day. Yeah. And because even if you look in right in our temple also every day there will be Bhagavatam class in the morning, right? So morning 8 o'clock we have the English Bhagavatam. Similarly, we have Bhagavatam in other languages also, right? So that's the thing. So even if somebody tells Bhagavatam in 7 days, right? So it's more of a commercial angle. Yeah, so it's always better to slowly read it. Yeah. So if possible, you can buy the Bhagavatam set and then try to read whenever you're free, right? In a day. In a day, if you can spend some time like 15 minutes or half an hour reading this, then that will be very good. Though it will take time because these are 8,000 and 18,000, right? And the other instruction which Prabhupada gives in the introduction is never skip the cantos. Yeah. So in here, right, we'll have different cantos. Okay. So if you look in this Veda base, right? So this Bhagavad Puran has got 12 cantos, you can see, right? So these are the 12 cantos, and then each canto will again be divided into different chapters. So that's the reason we should not skip it. And what Prabhupada says is most of the time people jump in for the 10th canto directly, so which is not the right process. Okay. So this is like our school, right? So unless you study first standard, second standard, third standard, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, you cannot go and write directly the 10th standard exam. Even if you write, then you'll fail, right? The same thing is here. So, and then to understand the 10th chapter, right, we should understand 9 chapters, and then we should have that maturity to deep into the 10th chapter. Okay. So, 10th chapter is basically the, it's all about Krishna, right? So, Krishna's pastimes with the gopis and all, right? So, it comes in detail there. So, most of the speakers, right, the public speakers, they directly take people into the 10th chapter, but they should know that what were the different incarnations, how is the Lord taking incarnations, and there are different things, right? So from 1 to 10, right, how did the creation happen, right? So everything is there in Bhagavatam. Yeah. So and then this is called Amala Puran. Okay. So so which is which doesn't have any mala. Okay. So in rest of the uh, whatever we have the books, right, the spiritual books or whatever we have read, everyone makes, they actually focus on making things better. Okay. So like if you are in an jail, right, uh, if you are in a jail, then so it's like other books will tell you how to go to a better jail. Okay. So because we are conditioned souls, and from Bhagavad Gita we know, right? So we are in this material world, right? So which is nothing but dukkhalayam shashvatam, right? And then other books they'll tell you how to make your life little bit better, right? But nobody is going to teach you the essence of how do we go back home to back to Godhead, yeah. and then we'll actually come out of the cycle of birth and death. Yeah, so that's the ultimatum of the spiritual knowledge, right? So it shouldn't be that. So now, even the other lokas, right? So maybe if we read other places, right? So they'll tell you that if you do these all things, right, you'll reach to Swargaloka, or you'll go to some Indraloka, or wherever it is, right? So you may go to an higher planet, but we all know, right? So in Bhagavad Gita, it is said, "A Brahma Bhuna Loka," right? So wherever you go, even in the Brahma Loka also, you are there. So you'll have one day you'll be annihilated. Yeah. So it's always better we follow this, and then this comes in the disciplic succession also. Okay. So this is just an introduction which I wanted to give you before we start with this. And then most of the things, right? So our Bhagavad Gita is like our what do I say? So if it is like our in college, if it is like our junior college, right? So it's like Bhagavad Gita is our junior college, yeah. And then Bhagavatam is the degree, okay, degree college, yeah. And then say we have masters. So masters is Chaitanya Charitamrita, okay. So we have passed out of the junior college. So and the thing is in Bhagavatam, right? You should be able to correlate with Bhagavad Gita. So most of the things you will be finding uh, the connection from Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So not in every say verse or so, but say everywhere you'll find the connection is there at the back end to the Bhagavad Gita, right? So because Bhagavad Gita is a consolidated manual, right? So that is the consolidated manual of all Vedas for us, right? So for Kali Yuga, that's the one which everyone should follow through. Yeah. So today, right, we'll start with the first canto, first chapter, first shloka. So these are the prayers by Vyasadeva, right? So Vyasadeva is none other than Krishna only. So he is also one of the incarnation of the Lord. Okay. And then Vyasadeva only gave us all the things, right? Vedanta Sutras, Vedas, Mahabharata, all Srimad Bhagavatam, so everything, right? So we'll just recite this verse. Yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadasya Yatho Anyat Itratas Chatharvas Abhijnana Swarat Tene Brahma Hridaye Adhikavye Muhyanti Yat Suryah Tejo Varimrudam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra त्रिसर्गो अमृष धाम धामना धामना स्वेन सदा निराशत कुहुकं सत्यं परम धीमहि. So any Matajis or Prabhujis you want to try this sloka? You want to recite?
Prabhuji, let me try.
Yeah, try Mataji, no problem.
You mean the shloka or the synonyms or?
You can try sloka also, no problem Mataji.
Okay, Prabhuji. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmade Asya Yato Nmayad Itratas Chartesva Abhignaha Swarat Tene Brahma Rida Ya Adi Kavaye Muhyanti
काव्य हाँ
काव्यः मुह्यन्ति यत् सुरायः तेजो परिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन स्वेन सदा निरस्त कुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि.
Hare Krishna
Hare.
Mataji. So whenever there is an apostrophe first, right, Mataji, this goes Amrsha. This becomes
um, okay,
Amrasha.
okay.
Okay, so you should have to read like this. Okay. So
Amrashaha. Okay.
yeah. So even you can check. So that's all comes in practice. Yeah. So we'll read the
Yes.
synonyms. Om. O my Lord, Namaha, offering my obeisances, Bhagavate, onto the personality of Godhead. Vasudevaya, onto Vasudeva, the son of Vasudev, or Lord Sri Krishna, the primeval Lord. Janmadi, creations, assistance, and destruction. Asya, of the manifested universes. Yatha, from whom. Anyayat, Anvayat, directly. Itarata, indirectly. Cha, and Artheshu, purposes. Abhigyana, fully cognizant. Swarat, fully independent. Tene, imparted. Brahma, the Vedic knowledge. Hrida, conscious of the heart. Yaha, one who. Adhikavye, onto the original created being. Muhyanti, our illusion. Yat, about whom. Surya, great sages and demigods. Teja, fire. Vari, water. Mridam, earth. Yatha, as much as. Vinimaya, actions and reaction. Yatra, whereupon. Trisarga, three modes of creation, creative faculties. Amrasha, almost factual. Dhamna, along with all transcendental paraphernalia. Svena, Svena, self-sufficiently. Sada, always. Nirashata, negation by absence. Kuhakam, illusion. Satyam, truth. Param, absolute. Dhimahi, I do meditate upon. So the first thing is in here Vyasadev is offering his obeisances, right? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva. So he is offering his obeisances onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is nothing but Vasudevaya, is nothing but the son of Vasudeva, right? So it's nothing but Lord Krishna, who is the primeval Lord, who is the Adi Guru, right? So Janmadi, so creation, sustenance, and destruction, and Asya of the manifested universes. So here he is again, Vyasadev is confirming the sense, right? So who is the primeval Lord? Eh? Is nothing but Lord Krishna, and he is the one who does the creation, maintenance, and annihilation, right? Even this we understand from Bhagavad Gita, right? And then who is Swarat, who is fully dependent, yeah, and then who is fully cognizant, okay, and then who is who has manifested both internal and external energies, right? So all those things are being discussed here, yeah. So both material energies and the superior energy, right? So both are created by the Lord, and then he is Swarat, right? And from him, Lord Brahma was born, and then Brahma was actually imparted Vedic knowledge, right? So the Vedic knowledge was imparted to Brahma, okay. So the Lord personally gave him the Vedic knowledge, and then Brahma started creating the universe, because Brahma didn't knew. So when he was born out of that lotus flower, right, from the navel of the Lord, so Brahma didn't knew. He was all alone, and then Lord Brahma didn't knew what to do now, right? And then what is my origin? He didn't knew anything, and then it so happened that he tried to go back with the stem, right? He was trying to go in that ocean, right? And then he wanted to see, so where does and the stem come out from? But he, while doing so, right, he heard two words as from the Lord as tapa. Okay. So ta and pa. So which was nothing but tapasya. And then Lord Brahma did some 10,000 years of tapasya. He meditated on the Lord and then he could see the Lord face to face. Yeah. So all these things are there in the Bhagavatam description. Okay. Yes, Mataji, you can read this translation. There will be a lot of reading, Prabhujis and Matajis, because these are all Prabhupada's purports, so we'll have to release these things, yeah, purports and translations. Go ahead, Mataji. Now you can read the translation.
Yes, Prabhuji. Just one question, Prabhuji.
Hmm.
Then, in some places, it is said that the first, knowledge was actually given by Lord Krishna to the Sun God, and over here it is mentioning it was given to Brahmaji. So, who was the first person that the Lord imparted the knowledge to?
It was Brahma only. So only Brahma was created. Brahma is the first creator. Okay. So for the firstborn is Brahma. Okay. In the living
Okay.
entities, right? The firstborn was Brahma, and that thing which you are referring, right? That in Bhagavad Gita it is referred for the Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita was being spoken to the sun god. Okay. So,
Mhm.
but he was not the firstborn. Okay.
Yeah.
And then in the disciplic succession, it got lost. Hence, it was again re-spoken with, to Arjuna. And then, because for Kali Yuga, right? So it just needed a refreshment. So we got it from Arjuna. So the Lord spoke to Arjuna. Okay. So
Mhm.
that's the disciplic succession therein. But here, Brahma is the first creator. Okay.
Yeah. Fine. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Translation. O my Lord, Shri Krishna, Son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusions, as one is bewildered by the illusory representation of water seen in fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reaction of the three modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representation of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So in this, if we see, right, so Lord Vyasadev has actually touched so many things, right? So if you look, right, so one of them thing is he is primeval cause of all causes, right? So he is the origin. Okay, so that's been mentioned here, and then he is the one who actually does creation, maintenance, and destruction, right? So with different energies, right? So creation is done by Lord Brahma, right? Sustenance by Lord Vishnu, and destruction by Lord Shiva. Okay, so all these things happen under his will only. Yeah, and then he is there. He is present everywhere, right? So he is present everywhere. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations. So he is present in the devatas, in the demigod, and then he is present in the ant also, right? And then he is aloof from them also. All these things we know from Bhagavad Gita, right? So, and then he is the one who gave the Vedic knowledge onto the heart of Brahmaji, right? So this is the evidence, yeah. And then even Lord Brahma gets bewildered with the potencies of the Lord, right? So we all know Brahma Vimohan Leela, right? So wherein even Lord Brahma, when he saw Lord Krishna, right? So when he was playing with his Gopa friends, right? And then he was a small boy, and then he was doing miracles. But Lord Brahma saw him, and then he said that he cannot be the supreme personality of Godhead, right? Hence, he also tricked, and then he wanted to test the Lord, yeah, because he himself couldn't understand that it's Lord who has manifested as Lord Krishna, and then he is actually playing with his friends and then doing all pastimes in Vrindavan. Yeah, he actually kidnapped all of them, right? And then and he went for a second or so for a couple of minutes he kidnapped them, but Brahmaji's minutes are days here, right? On the material world. And what happened? So Lord Krishna manifested all of them same, ditto. So not even the gopas, the cows, calves, everything were manifested. So that's how afterwards when Brahmaji um, rechecked it, he understood that it's the Lord, right? So Lord Krishna is not understood. So they can't, they are, say, the exalted devotees like Lord Brahma and others, right? Other demigods, so who are pure devotees, right? So they themselves are bewildered, right? So they themselves don't know about the Lord. Yeah. So it's not easy to understand the Lord's pastimes or anything. Yeah. So because and for us it is much more difficult because we look everything from the material sense, right? So we feel that okay, so everything whatever we see, right? We feel that that's the ultimate thing, right? And then everything we try to gauge depending upon our material senses. Okay, so we see and then we think that okay, this is how everything should be there, but it's not, right? Because our vision is limited. We can't see a lot many things which a microscope can see, right? So our senses are imperfect. Okay, so we can't actually judge all those things. Yeah. So that's how, right? It's all illusion, and then we are living in illusion. So we are in Maya, right? And then so our illusion, and we are thinking that the illusion is reality. So it's like the mirage. So it's been said the same thing, right? So as the water is in on the land, right? So at times on the when we are traveling or so, right? So we feel that there is some water on the road, but it's not, right? It's all illusion. So similarly, we are in illusion in the material world, thinking that this is all, but it's not. So we are dancing with the three modes of material nature, right? So either in the mode of goodness, or in the mode of ignorance, yeah, or in the mode of passion. So in either of them, so we are actually dancing, and then these things are again controlled by the Lord, right? So that's what. So he says that we are living in this temporary world, right? And then thinking that this is the reality, but which is a perverted reflection. Yeah. So I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representation. But if you look at reverse, right? So in the spiritual world, there is no illusion. Everything is reality. And there is no age old, right? So you'll not get old age. Yeah. You don't have problem of birth, death, disease, right? So this is all there here. So there everything is reverse. Okay. I will go through the purport. Um, Mataji, you want to read? Who can read now? Kailash Mataji, you want to read purport? Because this
Hare
long
Krishna,
one,
Babu.
so everyone has to
Hare
read
Krishna, Babu.
one para. Go ahead, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Babu. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Vasudeva, directly indicating Sri Krishna, who is the divine son of explained in the text of this work. Sri Vyasadeva asserts herein portions of po-
Hare
asserts
Krishna. Mataji
herein
left
that
this.
Sri Krishna is the origin personality. Yes, herein that Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead and all others are his direct or indirect plenary portions or portions of the portion. Srila Jiva Goswami has even more explicitly explained the subject matter in his Krishna Sandarbha. And Brahma, the original living being, has explained the subject of Sri Krishna substantially in his treatise named Brahma Samhita. In an Upanishad in the Samaveda, it is also stated that Lord Sri Krishna is the divine son of Devaki. Therefore, in this prayer, the first proposition holds that Lord Krishna is the primeval Lord, and if any transcendental nomenclature is to be understood as belonging to the absolute personality of Godhead, it must be the name indicated by the word Krishna, which means the all attractive. In Bhagavad Gita, in many places, the Lord asserts himself to be the original personality of Godhead, and this is confirmed by Arjuna and also by great sages like Narada, Vyasa, and many others. In the Padma Purana, it is also stated that out of the innumerable names of the Lord, the name of Krishna is the principal one. Vasudeva indicates the plenary portion of the personality of Godhead, and all the different forms of the Lord, being identical with Vasudeva, are indicated in this text. The name Vasudeva particularly indicates the divine son of Vasudeva and Devaki. Sri Krishna is always meditated upon by the Paramhamsas, who are the perfected ones among those in the renounced order of life. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So this is the introduction part, right? So wherein um, Vyasadeva, right? So he's actually praying his obeisances, right? And then we first pays the obeisances, and then he starts, right? And then he says that Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and then he refers who is he. So he is the son of Vasudeva and Devaki.
Vasudeva,
Yeah,
Devaki.
yeah. So he ascertains that, and then he says that, and then there are a couple of references, right? Has been more explanation. So Jiva Goswami has explained in this Krishna Sandarbha, right? And Brahma has explained the subject matter. So Brahma Samhita is nothing but after this Brahma Vimohan Leela, right? Which I just spoke in a short. After that, Lord Brahma actually prays to the Lord, right? So in that you'll get so there is a book also for Brahma Samhita. Okay. So the first verse is nothing but Ishvara Parama Krishna, right? So that's the one. And so in the different references are also there, right? In Samaveda also it's there. Also stated that Lord Krishna is the divine son of Devaki. So these are all the references which we are getting in, and then he is the primeval Lord, and yeah, and even we know that in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna also confirms this, right? So after listening in the 10th chapter, right, he says that Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan, right? Purusham Shasvatam Divyam, Adi Devam Ajam Vibhum. And then, so even in Bhagavad Gita, if you remember, it has been mentioned in the purport that so people may feel that Arjuna, being the close associate of Krishna, might have spoken this, but he ascertains that not only me. So they were rishis like Narada, Asilo, and then Vyasa, right? So they have also confirmed it, right? So that's somewhere in 10.12 and 13 verses, right? So that's the confirmations which we get in. Yeah. And yeah. So Vasudeva indicates the plenary portion of personality of Godhead and all different forms Lord being identical with Vasudeva are indicated in this text. Yeah. And then we all know that Krishna means all attractive. Yeah. Yeah. Prabhuji, you want to read Pravin Prabhu on this para?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Vasudeva or Lord Krishna
Prabhu, your
is the
voice is
cause of.
very low, Prabhu. Mataji, are you able to hear Prabhu's voice? Melinda Mataji or Kailash Mataji?
Am I audible
No,
now?
it's low, just that yeah, it's a little low. You might need to come a little more closer to the mic.
Am I audible now?
No, Prabhu.
Better. Maybe it's a little better.
One second.
It try Prabhu, no? Hare Krishna.
I'm going to another place where my voice could be better.
Okay. Okay. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Let me read then. So Vasudeva or Lord Krishna is the cause of all causes. Okay. Everything that exists emanates from the Lord. How this is so is explained in later chapters of this work. Okay. This work is described by Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya as the spotless Purana. Okay. So this is what the we have got the confirmation from Lord Chaitanya also saying that Bhagavatam is a spotless Purana because it contains the transcendental narration of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. The history of the Srimad Bhagavatam is also very glorious. It was compiled by Sri Vyasadeva after he had attained maturity in transcendental knowledge. Okay, he wrote this under the instruction of Sri Naradji, his spiritual master. Vyasadeva compiled all Vedic literature containing the four divisions of the Vedas, the Vedanta Sutras, okay, the Puranas, the Mahabharata, and so on. But nevertheless, he was not satisfied. His dissatisfaction was observed by his spiritual master. And thus Narada advised him to write on the transcendental activities of Lord Krishna. The transcendental activities are described specifically in the 10th canto of this work. But in order to reach the very substance, one must proceed gradually by developing knowledge of the categories. Okay. So basically what happened is Vyasadeva compiled the Vedas, right? And Vedanta Sutra, and then he wrote the Puranas and Mahabharata, but he was never satisfied. He always had something, he was not feeling good, right? So though he compiled so many literatures, he was not feeling good. And then it so happened that he asked the question to Narad Muni. Okay. And then Narad Muni says that you have written so many texts, but you have not glorified the Lord, right? So in there, he feels that yes, so that is something which was missing. So then he writes the Bhagavatam. Okay. And then here, whatever we spoke, right? So it should be read one after the other. Okay. Yeah. So Milinda Mataji, you can read this now.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. It is natural that a philosophical mind wants to know about the origin of the creation. At night, he sees the stars in the sky and he naturally speculates about their inhabitants. Such inquiries are natural for man because man has a developed consciousness which is higher than that of the animals. The author of Srimad Bhagavatam gives us a direct answer to such inquiries. He says that the Lord Shri Krishna is the origin of all creations. He is not only the creator of the universe, but the destroyer as well. The manifested cosmic nature is created at a certain period by the will of the Lord. It is maintained for some time and then it is annihilated by his wish, by his will. Therefore, the supreme will is behind all cosmic activities. Of course, there are atheists of various categories who do not believe in a creator, but that is due to a poor fund of knowledge. The modern scientist, for example, has created space satellites, and by some arrangement or other, these satellites are thrown into outer spaces to fly for some time at the control of the scientist who is far away. Similarly, all the universes with innumerable stars and planets are controlled by the intelligence of the personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mata. So in here, right? So this is the difference between us and the animals, right? So we are inquisitive, right? And then we should inquire, right? Say how are, so the example is given, how does we see stars in the sky, right? And then these are not all man-made, right? Say how is all these things happening, right? How are the planets floating in the universe? Yeah. So all these things are nothing but the creations of the Lord. Yeah? So because the Lord all has confirmed all these things in Bhagavad Gita also, right? And then, so if we take an example of a spider, right? The spider creates its own web, right? And then it stays on the web for some time. And then if he likes, right, it can actually wind up the web and then move into a different place, right? So when a small creature can do that, right? So whenever it likes, it can create a web and then it can sit on it, and then when it doesn't like, it can wind up the web. So why not the Lord, right? So similarly, the example of the space satellites are being given. So most of the people, there are few sections wherein people do not believe that there is a creator behind everything, right? So in that case, right? So here the example is being given of the space satellites, right? Even though, right, we send something to the space, right, everything has to be controlled from the control center, right? So without that, nothing happens, right? So even the different stages the satellite goes through, right? The launcher, everything, right? And even if a toy like thing is being sent, and then so that's everything maneuvered, and then everything is controlled from the control center, right? So in the same way, so there are so many universes. There is Brahmanda, right? So all these satellites and everything, right? How are they maintained? So there is a creator behind it, and then there is a controller. That's the thing which has been explained here. Okay. Okay. We have so many Prabhus and Mataji, is it?
Shall I read Prabhuji now?
Yeah, now it's much better, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. In Vedic literatures, it is said that the absolute truth, personality of Godhead, is the chief amongst all living personalities. All living beings, beginning from the first created being, Brahma, down to the smallest ant, are individual living beings. And above Brahma, there are even other living beings with individual capacities. And the personality of Godhead is also a similar living being. And he is an individual, as are the other living beings, but the Supreme Lord or the Supreme Living Being has the greatest intelligence, and he possesses supermost inconceivable energies of all different varieties. If a man's brain can produce a space satellite, one can very easily imagine how brains higher than man can produce similarly wonderful things which are far superior. The reasonable person will easily accept this argument, but there are stubborn atheists who would never agree. Srila Vyasadeva, however, at once accepts the Supreme Intelligence as the Parmeshwar. He offers his respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Intelligence, addressed as the Para or the Parmeshwar or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that Parmeshwar is Sri Krishna, as admitted in Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures delivered by Sri Vyasadeva, and specifically in the Srimad Bhagavatam. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that there is no other Paratattva, Sumam Bonam, than himself. Therefore, Sri Vyasadeva at once worships the Paratattva Sri Krishna, whose transcendental activities are described in the 10th canto. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So here again, say the creation is little bit explained, right? So from Brahma to the smallest ant, right? So everything is created by the Lord, and then all are living beings, right? So, and then the origin of them is Lord Krishna. So even if we actually think, so if we think that say we were born from the father, right? So then father's father, if we go in that respect, right? So at the end, right? So we'll stop at Lord Brahma, and then Lord Brahma was created from Lord Krishna. So this is basically being mentioned here, that there is nothing which comes out of dead matter. Okay, the living being. So everything is personal form. So that's what is being stressed out here. Okay, so the living beings are coming from the living entities. Yeah, so it's not that something has come um, out of some dead matter also, right? So dead matter can't produce anything. Yeah, and then the other thing has been mentioned is he is full, right? So the Lord is full in everything, right? So he's Bhagavan. So he has all six opulences, right? So none other, because the living entities have defects, but he doesn't have any of them. Yeah. So he is full, right? So this we have in Ishopanishad also, right? So and he knows the past, present, and the future also, right? And then he is residing with us, right? So he is the only companion with us. Okay. So even whatever life we take in, right? So even if we are taking in the next birth, if we are taking a birth of a demigod, so he's our well wisher, and then he'll be with us. And even if we are in the small ant also, right? He is the friend for us, right? And then he knows everything. He remembers our past, present, and then he knows our future also, but we don't remember, right? Because we are just a spiritual spark of him, right? It's like the gold particles and the gold mine. Yeah. And then in the Bhagavad Gita, we have that 15th chapter, the verse, right? Sarvasya chaham hridhi sanivishto. Mataspritir jnanam apohanam cha. Vedesya cha sarveraham eva vedyo. Vedantakrit vedavit eva chaham, right? So he is there in all of us, right? So that's something we should know, right? And even in Bhagavad Gita also we have the same thing, right? So wherein he is the so we have that example of the birds also, right? So one is the worker bird and the other is the watcher, right? So the Lord watches all our activities from all our previous janmas. Yeah. Yeah. So this who else is there who wants to read this? Kailash Mataji, you want to read? Okay. We have Saheli Bose. Mataji, you want to read this? Hare Krishna? No. Okay. Kailash Mataji, you want to read this or hello? Hare Krishna?
Shall I continue, Prabhuji?
Yeah, you can continue, Prabhu then.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Unscrupulous persons go immediately to the 10th canto, and especially to the 5 chapters which describe the Lord's Rasa dance. This portion of the Srimad Bhagavatam is the most confidential part of this great literature. Unless one is thoroughly accomplished in the transcendental knowledge of the Lord, one is sure to misunderstand the Lord's worshipable transcendental pastimes called Rasa dance and his love affairs with the gopis. This subject matter is highly spiritual, and only the liberated persons who have gradually attained to the stage of Paramahamsa can transcendently relish this rasa dance. Srila Vasudeva therefore gives the reader the chance to gradually develop spiritual realization before actually relishing the essence of the pastimes of the Lord. Therefore, he purposely invokes a Gayatri mantra, Dhimai. This Gayatri mantra is meant for spiritually advanced people. When one is successful in chanting the Gayatri mantra, he can enter into transcendental position of the Lord. One must therefore acquire Brahmanical qualities or be perfectly situated in the quality of goodness in order to chant the Gayatri mantra successfully and then attain to the stage of transcendently realizing the Lord, His name, His fame, His qualities, and so on. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So this is the same thing which we were discussing initially, right? So there are for commercial purpose, right? So for actually there are reciters, okay? So who are actually very so their whole motto is to earn money, right? So for them, right, this 10th chapter and then basically the 5 chapters which have been mentioned, right? So they'll be interested into that only. And then the audience, right, say they get carried away, right? So it's a wrong thing. So that's what it's been mentioned. So to understand that chapter, right, we should be liberated, or we should have a strong spiritual knowledge. Then only we can actually understand those chapters, right? So unless then, so we should not jump in, right? So that's the thing. As we said in the beginning, right? So we should do it systematically. Yeah. So Srimad Bhagavatam is the narration of the Swarupa of the Lord manifested by his internal potency. Yeah. And this potency is distinguished from the external potency which has manifested the cosmic world, which is within our experience. Yeah. So there are, we know, right? Lord has got two potencies, internal and external. The one is Antaranga Shakti, the other one is Bahiranga and Tatastha, right? So we are marginal. So Srila Vyasadev makes a clear distinction between the two in this sloka. Sri Vyasadev says here in that the manifested internal potency is real, right? So that's what has been mentioned, right? And so we read the translation also wherein it has been mentioned that the mirage, right? So we can see water on the road, that's illusion, right? Whereas the external manifested energy in the form of material existence is only temporary or illusory, like the mirage in the desert. So we are living in the illusory world. In the desert, mirage, there is no actual water. There is only the appearance of water. Real water is somewhere else. The manifested cosmic creation appears as reality, but reality of which this is but a shadow is in the spiritual world. Yeah, absolute truth is in the spiritual sky, not in the material sky. Okay, in this, so whatever we are seeing, right? This is all perverted reflection, and then we have more dukkhas than sukhas, right? So we may enjoy the temporarily. Everyone enjoys some portion. Okay, say it depends upon the previous sukritis which we have in, right? The baggage which we bring in, the papa karmas and punya karmas, right? So depending on that, and then the kind of desires we have, we may enjoy some sukha and more dukkha, right? So it depends. So, but for sure there is sukha and dukkha, right? So it's not every time that you'll be have only sukha. So that's the material nature. In the material nature, in the material sky, everything is relative truth. That is to say, one truth depends on something else. The cosmic creation results from interaction of three modes of nature, and the temporary manifestations are so created as to present an illusion of reality to the bewildered mind of the conditioned souls, who appears in so many species of life, including the higher demigods like Brahma, Indra, Chandra, and so on. In actually, there is no reality in the manifested world. There appears to be reality, however, because of the true reality which exists in the spiritual world, where the personality of Godhead eternally exists with his transcendental paraphernalia. So this is the actual thing. So everything is there in the spiritual world. Whatever we are seeing is perverted, and then we should not get carried away with this. Okay. Milinda Mataji, carry on. No?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. The
Here,
chief engineer
yeah.
Yeah. The chief engineer of a complicated construction does not personally take part in the construction, but he knows every nook and corner because everything is done under his direction. He knows everything about the construction, both directly and indirectly. Similarly, the personality of Godhead, who is the supreme engineer of this cosmic creation, knows every nook and corner, although affairs are being carried out by demigods. Beginning from Brahma down to the insignificant ant, no one is independent in the material creation. The hand of the Lord is seen everywhere. All material elements, as well as all spiritual sparks, emanate from Him only. And whatever is created in this material world is but the interaction of two energies, the material and the spiritual, which emanates from the Absolute Truth, the personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. A chemist can manufacture water in the chemical laboratory by mixing hydrogen and oxygen. But in reality, the living entity works in a laboratory under the direction of the Supreme Lord. And the materials with which he works are also supplied by the Lord. The Lord knows everything directly and indirectly, and he is cognizant of all minute details, and he is fully independent. He is compared to a mine of gold, and the cosmic creation, in so many ways, different forms, are compared to the objects made from the gold, such as gold rings, necklaces, and so on. The gold ring and the gold necklace are qualitatively one with the gold in the mine, but quantitatively, the gold in the mine is different. Therefore, the absolute truth is simultaneously one and different. Nothing is absolutely equal to the absolute truth, but at the same time, nothing is independent of the absolute truth. Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna Mataji. So this is being mentioned, right? Of the same thing, right? So the Lord resides within every atom, right, to the demigod, and then he knows what is happening, uh, right? And then here it is being mentioned that about the scientists, right? So the scientists actually use the raw materials or anything, right? So they get all those things from the nature only, right? So they don't manufacture that, right, to do something, right? Even the brain, right, so which is being given to the scientist is given by whom? By the Lord, right? It's not that something they have developed. Had it been that, they could have developed a lot of Einsteins, right? But that's not possible, right? So if for in everything, right, that is in the hand of Lord. Yeah. Yeah. So conditioned souls, beginning from Brahma, who engineers the entire universe, down to the insignificant ant, are all creating, but none of them is independent of the Supreme Lord. The materialist strongly thinks that there is no creator other than his own self. This is called Maya or illusion. So that's what illusion is, all right. So all the scientists are basically in illusion. Because of his poor fund of knowledge, the materialist cannot see beyond the purview of his imperfect senses, because our senses are imperfect. Yeah? And thus he thinks that matter automatically takes its own shape without the aid of superior intelligence. This is refuted in the shloka by Srila Vyasadev, right? Since the complete whole or the absolute truth is the source of everything, nothing can be independent of the body of the absolute truth. Whatever happens to the body quickly becomes known to be embodied. Similarly, the creation is the body of the absolute whole. Therefore, the absolute knows everything directly and indirectly what happens in the creation. So that's the thing, yeah. So we discussed these things. Again, it has been covered. Yeah. So this we can pick. Prabhu, you can read this, no? This para, no?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
In the Shruti mantra, it is also stated that the absolute whole or Brahman is the ultimate source of everything. Everything emanates from him, and everything is maintained by him. And at the end, everything enters into him. That is the law of nature. In the Smriti mantra, the same is confirmed. It is said that the source from which everything emanates at the beginning of Brahma's millennium and the reservoir to which everything ultimately enters is the absolute truth of Brahman. Material scientists take it for granted that the ultimate source of the planetary system is the sun, but they are unable to explain the source of the sun. Herein, the ultimate source is explained. According to the Vedic literatures, Brahma, who may be compared to the sun, is not the ultimate creator. It is stated in the shloka that the Brahma was taught Vedic knowledge by the personality of Godhead. One may argue that Brahma, being the original living being, could not be inspired because there was no other living being at the time. Herein it is stated that the Supreme Lord inspired the secondary creator Brahma in order that Brahma could carry out his creative functions. So the supreme intelligence behind all creations is absolute Godhead, Sri Krishna. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Sri Krishna states that it is He only who superintends the creative energy, Prakriti, which constitutes the totality of matter. Therefore, Sri Vyasadeva does not worship Brahma, but the Supreme Lord who guides Brahma in his creative activity. In this shloka, the particular words uh,
Abhigyana.
Abhigyana and Savrata are significant. These two words distinguish the Supreme Lord from all the other living entities. No other living entity is either Abhigyana or Savrat. That is, no one is either fully cognizant or fully independent. Even Brahma has to meditate upon the Supreme Lord in order to create. Then what to speak of great scientists like Einstein? The brains of such a scientist are certainly not the products of any human being. Scientists cannot manufacture such a brain, and what to speak of foolish atheists who defy the authority of the Lord. Even Mayavadi impersonalists who flatter themselves that they can become one with the Lord are neither Abhigyana or nor Savrat. Such impersonalities undergo severe austerities to acquire knowledge to become one with the Lord. But ultimately they become dependent on some rich disciple who supplies them with money to build monasteries and temples. Atheists like Ravan or Hiranyakashipu had to undergo severe penances before they could flout the authority of the Lord. But ultimately they were rendered helpless and could not save themselves when the Lord appeared before them as cruel death. This is also the case with the modern atheists who also dare to flout the authority of the Lord. Such atheists will be dealt with similarly, for history repeats itself. Whenever men neglect the authority of the Lord, nature and laws are there to penalize them. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.7 in the well-known verse Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya Glani. Whenever there is a decline of dharma and a rise of adharma, O Arjun, then I incarnate myself. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you. So here, right, the two words are very significant, right? Abhigyana or Swarat. Yeah. So this is one who is fully cognizant, so who knows everything, right? Past, present, future, and then who is fully independent. The Lord creates and then he is fully independent, and then he is aloof, and then he is never partial also, right? So the Lord is never partial to anyone. So he treats everyone equally, right? But like if you look at the atheists and then say like Ravana and Hiranyakashipu, right? So they were going in a wrong way, right? So and then they wanted to become, what do we say? So they wanted to rule the universe in a wrong way, and then so they wanted to enjoy everything, right? The material opulences and everything, right? And they were actually depriving um, the other devatas, right? And the brahmanas, right? So that doesn't work in, right? So everything should be following in shastric way, right? And so they cannot be equal to the god, right? So that's been being mentioned. So what happened? So Ravana and Hiranyakashipu said, Hiranyakashipu asked Lord, what not benedictions to Lord Brahma, right? So he had intelligently asked so many boons, saying that he should not be killed on the ground, nor on the sky, right? Nor in the house, nor in the day, nor in the night. So he had so many clauses. But so he cannot become the god. So he wanted to become Amar, right? He never wanted to die. And then he was doing all wrong things. And then when the limit gets crossed, right? The Lord comes in to actually save his devotees, right? So This is what has been mentioned. So even the Mayavadis or the impersonalists, they think that they will become the Lord, but they cannot because they don't have these two capabilities. Yeah, that's been mentioned in this verse categorically. So that the Supreme Lord is all perfect is confirmed in all these Shruti mantras. It is said in the Shruti mantras that the all perfect Lord threw a glance over matter and thus created all living beings. Yeah? So this is, we know that the Lord created. So with his glance, he created the whole universe, the living beings, right? The living beings are parts and parcel of the Lord, and he impregnates the vast material creation with the seeds of spiritual sparks, and thus the creative energies are set in motion to enact so many wonderful connections. An atheist may argue that God is no more expert than a watchmaker, but of course, God is greater because he can create machines in duplicate male and female forms. The male and female forms of different types of machineries go on producing innumerable similar machines without God's further attention. If a man could manufacture such a set of machines that could produce other machines without his attention, then he could approach the intelligence of God. But that is not possible, for each machine has to be handled individually. Therefore, no one can create as well as God. Another name of God is Asamordhava, which means that no one is equal or greater than him. Yeah? Param Satyam, or the supreme truth, is he who has no equal or superior. So there is no equal to the Lord, right? So can someone actually lift Govardhan at the age of 7 with the little finger? Right? It's not possible. So this is confirmed in the Shruti mantras. It is said that before the creation of material universe, there existed the Lord only, who is master of everyone. The Lord instructed Brahma in Vedic knowledge. The Lord has to be obeyed in all respect. Anyone who wants to get rid of material entanglement must surrender unto him. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so we have last couple of purport. We'll try to complete it in another 5-10 minutes. Rojis and Mata. This is a long purport. Yeah. Unless one surrenders onto the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, it is certain that he will be bewildered. When an intelligent man surrenders onto the lotus feet of Krishna and knows completely that Krishna is the cause of all causes, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, then only can such an intelligent man become a Mahatma or great soul. But such a great soul is rarely seen. Only the Mahatmas can understand that the Supreme Lord is the primeval cause of all creations. He is Parama or ultimate truth because all the truths are relative to him. He is omniscient. From him there is no illusion. So here, unless we surrender onto the Lord, right? So we'll not understand. So even what happened to Arjuna, he had to surrender, right? So then only he could understand what to be done, right? And even this Mahatma thing has been said, right? So Bahunam Janmanam Ante, right? So after many births, there will be one Mahatma who will understand, who who can understand that Lord Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and then he surrenders on to him. Yeah, yeah. Melina Mataji, quickly you can read this. No?
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji. Some Mayavadi scholars argue that Srimad Bhagavatam was not compiled by Sri Vyasadeva, and some of them suggest that this book is a modern creation written by someone named Bopadeva. In order to refute such meaningless arguments, Sri Sridhara Swami points out there is a reference to the Bhagavatam in many of the oldest Puranas. This first shloka of the Bhagavatam begins with a Gayatri mantra. There is a reference to this in the Matsya Purana, which is the oldest Purana. In that Purana, it is said, with reference to the Gayatri mantra in Bhagavatam, that there are many narrations of spiritual instructions beginning with the Gayatri mantra. And there is a history of Pratrasura. Anyone who makes a gift of this work, of this great work, on a full moon day, attains to the highest perfection of the life by returning to Godhead. There is a reference to Bhagavatam in other Puranas also, where it is clearly stated that this work was finished in the 12 cantos, which include 18,000 shlokas. In the Padma Purana, also there is reference to the Bhagavatam in a conversation between Gautam and Maharaja Ambariza. The king was advised therein to read regularly Srimad Bhagavatam if he desired liberation from the material bondage. Under the circumstances, there is no doubt about the authority of Bhagavatam. Within the past 500 years, many erudite scholars and acharyas like Jiva Goswami, Santana Goswami, Vishwanatha Chakravarti, Vallabharacharya, and many other distinguished scholars, even after the time of Lord Chaitanya, made elaborate commentaries on the Bhagavatam. And the serious students would do well to attempt to go through them to better relish the transcendental messages. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mata. So these are all the references, right? So few of them say, and then uh, Prabhupada has taken a lot of references saying that you don't go into that trap. We have enough references about the genuinity of Bhagavatam. Yeah? And then these are all our great acharyas, right? Goswamis, right? And then here it's been Maharaj Ambarish, right? Gautama. So all these things we'll know in detail, right? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura specifically deals with the original and pure sex um, psychology, Adi Rasa, devoid of all mundane inability. The whole material creation is moving under the principle of sex life. In modern civilization, sex life is the focal point of all activities. Wherever one turns his face, he sees sex life predominant. Therefore, sex life is not unreal. Its reality is experienced in the spiritual world. The material sex life is but a perverted reflection of the original fact. The original fact is the absolute truth, and thus the absolute truth cannot be impersonal. It is not possible to be impersonal and contain pure sex life. Consequently, the impersonalist philosopher have given indirect impetus to the abominable mundane sex life because they have overstressed the impersonality of the ultimate truth. Consequently, man without information of actual spiritual form of sex has accepted perverted material sex life as the all in all. This is a distinction between sex life in the diseased material condition and spiritual life. So in the spiritual life, whatever we see in the material world, right? So in the material world, we see all physical thing, right? But in spiritual life, it is not in that way, right? So those are all different mellows, okay? But in here in material life, that is being taken up in a wrong direction is what has been mentioned here by the other class of men. This Srimad Bhagavatam will gradually elevate the unbiased reader to the highest perfectional stage of transcendence. It will enable him to transcend the three modes of material activities, putative actions, speculative philosophy, and worship of functional deities as inculcated in the Vedic verses. So this is what it will help. Yeah. So at the end, it's been summarized what it will do, right? So you'll get the highest perfectional stage of transcendence. It will enable us to come out of those three modes of material activities. Yeah, furitives, speculative philosophy, and these things. Yeah. So this will happen, but yeah, it will take time gradually. Yeah. So we have started these things. So let's continue this journey. So today's purport was lengthier. So we had to take 15 minutes extra. Yeah. But yes, so it was a good read. So I just didn't want to stop it in between. Yeah. Okay. Hare Krishna Prabhuji and Matajis. Hope you could understand the essence of Bhagavatam. So next class we'll see the prayers of Arjuna, and if we get time, then we'll move with the prayers of Queen Kunti. Queen Kunti's prayers are a longer one, but so those are very wonderful to read through. Okay. So we'll wind up for today's class. Thank you all for your association. Vancha kalpatarobhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavyo namo namah. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Prabhu.